seriously, do you know the neighborhood watch meeting? Is it regularly monthly? Is it a regular month?
Yeah, second Thursday, and then Bella Community Book is third Wednesday. I'm gonna come back
I
in.
don't have
When?
this on my.
When? I'm gonna come back in at the 20th.
Stan, you've been sitting much too long, much too long. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Truth. That's Big John just blocking the YouTube.
Well, I have to turn off the equipment.
Welcome to Truth, the radio program designed with you in mind, a program whose sole purpose is to empower you, our listeners, for information leads to knowledge, and knowledge is power. And as always, I want to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and community. As always, too, I'd like you to go to the website at www.win-truth.com so you can access those resource listings that will link you to your municipalities, county agencies, state agencies, advocacy groups, and also you can take part in the query that we have going. And that query is really asking simply, have we as residents, as citizens, become much too dependent on government to the extent that we do less and less and take less and less responsibility for meeting our own needs. So go to the website so you can take part in that. It's kind of running 4 to 1 so far that we are too dependent. We have become too dependent. I also want you to go there because I now put at least portions of my interviews with my guests on YouTube. So you can go to the website and link up with YouTube. The one that you click on to will only get you to where all of the others are, and we have several. Probably good. I know I have over 170 YouTube videos that are there, but in terms of the actual show, we've probably got, you know, maybe about 50 or so that are there from prior guests as well as current guests. So if everything works right, my guest tonight, who is called Persis, who is candidate for Volusia County Chair, his will be on there sometime this week or next week. Sometimes, you know, the YouTubes act a little funny, and not the YouTube, it's the iPhone or iPad that associates with it acts a little funny, so it takes sometimes more than a couple of days for me to get it on there, but it will eventually end up on there. As has been stated, I'm going to ask Mayor, former City Commissioner, retired City Clerk, City of Daytona Beach, and President and CEO of AE Enterprises, Inc., a consulting firm on politics and ethics. And yes, they do go together. I want to do a shout out to all of the registered voters. Shout out to all of the registered voters. And shout out to those who have already voted via their absentee ballots, those who plan to vote, whether it's by absentee ballot, early voting, or voting the day of election at their precinct. But shout out to you. That means that you not only care, but you are civically engaged. You don't just sit around and talk about it, but you actually do something about it, which is to vote on these ballot issues, vote on the candidates that are before you. And I saw a glitch in the paper today where it says there were several hundred people who got absentee ballots, and one of the pages was missing. You should have 3 legal size, looks a little longer than legal size to tell you the truth, sheets of an absentee ballot, and they're front and back. And it starts with the presidential candidates, on page 1. And the 11 ballot issues that are on there, there are 11, even though the number's up to 12, but there are 11, because one of them was deleted. I believe that was item 7. But vote on those issues. In fact, one of the legal size pages is devoted to just one of the ballot issues. Legal women voters were on here previously, and you can, I haven't really been able to upload that yet, but eventually will. But I know they mailed that out to you, a voter's guide. So you can see the pros and cons of a lot of those ballot issues, but several of us, including the legal women voters, the NAACP, and others, are urging you to vote no on all of the ballot issues. You know, in a way, I almost feel like voting no just because the legislature, they keep doing things that make it more and more difficult and less incentivizing voting for people. And they decided that they would put the entire ballot issue on these ballots, which is why they are so long. And almost just to get them to maybe think again about that, it's worth voting no on some of these things. But there are really good, strong reasons as to why you should do that. And when you say, well, you're voting against, low-income housing for the seniors, no, seniors already have that. A lot of this stuff is misleading. Are you voting against the veterans getting such and such an added exemption? No, they're already getting that. They throw these things in for people who've already got it so that the additional ones they want to give it to, it will draw you guys in and make you want to vote for it. So, vote no on all the ballot issues. And in terms of the referendum, it's up to you on the property tax thing for school board, but I recommend that you vote in favor of that because it's an investment in our youth. And I'm sure, well, I don't know. I think county council did vote in support of that. You were not on it then, Paul, but you probably would have voted in support of that, wouldn't you? Probably. Okay. Want to just tell everyone too, Wings and Waves comes on this weekend, and also on Saturday night, the 13th, Bethune-Cookman University will be having a pink banquet, and it's to recognize those who have cancer, those who are survivors of cancer and the like. So you do want to see if you can still get tickets to go to that as well. And the only other thing I would say, because I know I have listeners in Flagler, so I'm going to just say to you guys that I like your sheriff, Don Fleming. I'm sorry. I love Don Fleming. He's a super guy, and I hope that you will support his reelection because I do love and appreciate him. Okay, Big's coming on again to do a little test.
Ready?
Yep, we're good. All right, now, as I have mentioned, Yes. As I mentioned, our guest tonight is called Persis, and again, he is running for chair of the Volusia County Council. Coun, if you would start out by just sharing with our listeners a little bit about yourself, because many times people who have been in office for a long time kind of believe that there are a lot of people who know everything about them, and they don't. It's just like, because I was campaigning, and I didn't make the assumption, but I really thought that there were a lot of people who knew, especially if you're in a city where there's a hotly contested election, knew that there were elections going on. And I still have people say, well, did you win? Did you win?
Oh, I know.
So, it kind of, or people who tell me they voted for me and they pulled down the lever. Oh, God. I'm sorry, guys, but, we haven't had a lever for many a moon. But for all of those who did, I do appreciate it. I thank you so much. And God is still good, and God is still in the blessing business. So, Carl, and before you tell people a little bit about yourself, I would like to just say that I've known Carl for many years, and I don't. People know I tell the truth when it comes to stuff like this. I've known him for many years. I have not had a problem over the time that he represented our zone, a district which was District 4. And the Pelican Bay area and other areas as well. But he was very supportive of us there. I mean, whenever we had a problem, he answered, and he helped us out in several situations. And I just want to say thank you for that, Carl. And I'm not just saying it because you're running, but I think, you were going to county council meetings then, so you couldn't come on the show for me to say it and stuff. And I would say that one of your fans is Elaine Holt, and you know Elaine, but Elaine has said to me that she's supporting you because she says you've always been supportive of them as well, those who live in her area, in her particular subdivision. So, and I've said this to you, that we have a young lady, a youth, who's a member of our church, and even though she had problems with some adults, you were one person she never had a problem with, and she said, "Oh, I like him. He's a cool dude. He's a cool guy." So she always felt you were fair, and I think when young people see good in a person, then that speaks volumes. So if you would take a moment just to tell people a little bit about yourself, your history and the like, and then share with them, if you would, what it is that you as county council chair would change in terms of how things operate, or how would they operate with you as chair?
Sure. Well, thanks, Gwen, and thank you for having me on. It's great being here. I want to just say that my roots run deep here in Volusia County. I've been here for 57 years, and it was supposed to be just a vacation for my family coming to visit Florida in the 50s, and then they never went back. We came from Boston, and we never returned to Boston. We just stayed in Florida. My mom fell in love with Daytona Beach, and she told my dad, "You need to go find a job because we're not leaving here. This is paradise." And I think it is paradise, and I just love it. I've spent my whole my childhood career. I graduated from Seabreeze. I went to Daytona State College, got my AA degree. I went to the University of Central Florida, but on the Daytona campus, and then I got my BA degree from there, and then I received my master's degree in administration and leadership from Stetson. So everything was right here, right in Volusia County. I started teaching Gwen in '77, I believe it was, and became a principal in 1984. My first principal job was in Oak Hill. And I didn't know where Oak Hill was, Gwen, when I got that job. I said, "Is that in Volusia County?" I wasn't sure. But anyway, I loved it. I loved it. I was there for five years. Went from Oak Hill to Spruce Creek Elementary School, and I knew where that school was. And from there, really from there up to Ormond Beach at Tomoka Elementary School. Was there for a pretty long time, actually, 13 years, and then from there to Ormond Beach Middle School. Really happy there too. I was there during the change when we split the schools and Hinson School was created. And that was exciting. And then I was there as we planned and built the new Ormond Beach Middle School, which was also very exciting. And in fact, the dedication for that's going to be in a week or so, because it's all finished, and I just can't wait. And they have invited me back, so I can't wait to be there for that. That's going to be so thrilling. And it really, Gwen, it was kind of during my time in Ormond that I think it was 1995. I was a principal at the elementary school, Tomoka, and Dave Hood was the mayor of Ormond Beach then, and Ed Kelly was on the city commission. And they had their children at Tomoka Elementary School, so they were parents. And I didn't really know them, but they came up to me one day after school, both of them, and I said, am I in some sort of trouble here? What is going on? I'm having a mayor and a commissioner come toward me, after school, or is everything okay with your children? And they said, no, everything's fine with the kids. He said, we just wondered, you ever thought about running for office? And I said, well, I've never thought about running for office. I've often helped other people, and I do like the political process, and I like all that. And they said, well, we think you ought to run for the city commission. And I said, well, I'll talk that over with my wife. Well, long story short, that's what I did. I won a very close election. I think I won by 30 votes or something. And so I served my four-year term, and then Dave Hood decided he had all the fun that he could stand with that job. And he said, I am going to leave. He said, I think you ought to run for mayor. And I did. I ran for mayor in '99. I won, and I was re-elected in 2001. In 2004, that's when I ran Gwen. I was moved then to Ormond Beach Middle School, and I ran that year for the county council. And I'll never forget that year because it was August 2004, and that's when all the hurricanes came. Remember the three?
Yes.
We all remember those three.
I was on the city commission.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. And as a principal, principals are assigned, some people do not know this, but during hurricanes, principals are assigned by the Red Cross and the county for shelter duty, shelter management. We have shelter management training. And so my assignment was to go to Deltona and serve at Galaxy, I think it was Galaxy Middle School. And I thought, oh my, you know, here I am over there, and there was a special needs shelter, and it was an animal shelter, and it was, you know, lots of people, and round the clock, sleeping on a cot. I remember all those things. And then, of course, you remember it because you were there for 5 or 6 days, and then you come home, and then they said, there's another storm coming. I'm like, oh no. So, oh boy, that was the fall. And anyway, sometime between, I think, Hurricane 2 and Hurricane 3, we had a primary election, and I actually won that. And I don't even remember campaigning. I was just involved with shelters and management and all that stuff. And then anyway, I served on the county council for four years, and then I ran again in 2008. I didn't have any opposition, which I guess happens maybe once in your life.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead. So I got my pass in 2008. But it was when I was sort of running in that campaign for 2008 that I knew that I was going to be termed out. Like, that was my second term, and that's all we have in county council, 2 terms. And I knew Frank Bruno was going to be termed out at the end of 2012. And I had to make a decision, you know, what am I going to do after 2012? Am I going to run for the county chair? Am I going to run for something else? How is that going to affect my role as a principal? You know, what now? This is a major time, and a major decision time. So my wife and I talked it over, and she said, you got to do what you want to do. And I said, I want to run. I love local politics, and I said, I'm going to stick where my comfort zone is and where I can do the most good, I believe. And I said, I think I'm going to run for the county chair, and I'm going to start planning it now, so that there's no temptation to do something else or get off track. And then my wife said, well, you're going to have to retire, because you can't be a principal and be the county chair. There's just no way. Yeah. And I said, you're right. And so that's when I signed my drop papers and got into drop. So I retired, Gwen, from the school system November 30th of last year, so it's almost been a year now. And of course, I resigned from the county council too, in June of this year. So I've gone from the last 14 years of always having 2 jobs to now having no job. I am just like citizen retired Carl, you know, for the first time, and it's really kind of strange. But as it relates to running for the county chair, I think it's been good for me. It's given me a fresh look at things, and I think that's important. You know, as simple as a thing as you know, when you run for office and you want to put signs out, you have to post a bond in each city. Right. Well, since I'm running countywide, you know, there were 16 cities, and they each have their own rules. So I would go to each city and go to City Hall and say, I'm here, I want to post my sign bond, what do I got to do? Well, it's amazing what I learned doing that. I learned, like, from the customer's point of view, when they go to City Hall and you want to fill out an application and you got to make a payment, and in some places when it was real easy, you know, it was one-stop shop. The person there knew exactly what I needed, gave me the form, filled it, told me how to, you know, fill it out, answered any questions I had, took my check, told me that, you know, this is a bond, and they gave me the rules, where I can post them, and the sizes. Other places, I go up there and they look at me like, what are you talking about? You know, I'm like, oh, this is good, and then I would have to explain it, then somebody else would come and go, oh, I know what he's talking about. And anyway, I kind of filed that away, and when people come to us and say things like, I have a hard time trying to get a permit in your place, or there's a lot of red tape, or it's a bureaucratic nightmare to get anything done. You hear those kind of comments from contractors, or just citizens trying to do something at their houses and getting permits. And I thought, you know, they are right. There are some places really have it worked out nicely. Some places don't. And it's not that they don't. They just don't have it quite as organized as some other places. And so as I was like ranking things and you know, trying to say, well, where does the county? Because I had to ask myself, well, how does the county rank with all these cities, because I had to go to the county and get a permit too. And I would say that we rank somewhere, in my thinking, about in the middle somewhere. How easy was it? How difficult, that someone has to answer all of my questions. So I think one of the things that I would like to do as the new county chair is to certainly set a new tone with the county manager and see if I can get consensus from our council to say, from being on the campaign trail, and we're going to have 3 new members join us this time on the county council, so they will be fresh from the campaign trail. And I've been at the same forums that all of them have been. And so I've heard all the same questions, and there's starting to be a regular pattern to all of these. And I would say, I think what we need to do is probably address some of the things that we've been hearing for the last 6 months from the people. And one of them is a constant one is we need to make our government more business friendly. We gotta make it more business friendly, and that lends itself to people want more jobs. They want somehow to create jobs. Well, government really can't create a whole lot of jobs, but we can create an environment in where we can assist local small businesses so that they can perhaps expand, and then they can hire people.
Right.
And that's what I think is one of the things that local governments can do, and we really should be doing. And all it really takes is your municipal government elected body to want to do it, and then direct your city manager, or in our case, our county manager, to say, we got to simplify things. We got to make it as convenient for the customer and for the local business owner as we possibly can.
Right.
We're starting to make some strides in that now, Gwen, by putting things online, which we should have been doing probably 3 years ago. But we're starting to put things online where people can fill out their permits online, and they can schedule inspections online, do a lot of things online because people are busy, so they can do it late at night or on the weekends. It's not like we are never closed, okay? So if you have business so you can do business with the county, we're open, because everything is going to be online and available to you. So I think that's one of the things that I certainly have heard a lot of, and certainly one of the things that I'm very concerned about.
And do you feel, this is casting no dispersions on Frank or anybody else on the council where you were, but do you feel you've been as responsive to or listened as much as you should have, maybe to residents and people in the community who've had issues? Is there a way that you can, make that much more friendly, user-friendly as well, to your residents and others who feel at times that the council doesn't listen, that they don't care based on decisions made and the like, and maybe you can give some examples of that.
Yeah, it's something that I can tell you that as a principal, like I said, I was a principal for 28 years, and I served at 7 different schools, and so as a principal, I would take over from a previous principal. And even though that school may have been running pretty good, I would come in there and I would always look and judge and listen and learn for a while, but then I would say, okay, I know some things that we can do to make it even better. And I believe that's what I would be doing with the Volusia County Council. I've had 7 years experience in serving on a city government as a commissioner and a mayor, and 7 years experience on the county council. And so I know where we've been, I know the current situation, and I know the challenges that we're going to face. And I'm going to bring a different style. You have your style, Frank has his style, I have my style. I mean, we all have our own individual style, and I want to. I'm going to adapt that, of course, to my style, but foremost in my thinking is going to be, how do I engage the public more? You know, that's what I really want us to do. I talked about setting a different tone. County government's huge, and it can be intimidating. I mean, just walking into those chambers, Gwen, you know, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, you know, I understand that on every public policy matter, sometimes you're just not going to be able to please everybody, particularly if it's a neighborhood thing. You know, when sometimes somebody wants something and somebody else doesn't, and so those things are kind of hard. Most of the time, what I try to find is some sort of compromise. You know, what is it that you can live with? What is it that you can live with? Can't we find some middle ground here so that maybe you're not entirely happy, but you're not entirely mad either, and you can live with it.
Everybody walks away with something.
Yeah, everybody walks away with something, and everyone feels like they were listened to. And most of the time, I would say there are opportunities where you can make that happen. But I think one of the things I'm very excited about is if I am elected and start this position in January, then the new council members, at least 3, there could be 4, you know, they'll be coming in, they'll be excited, they'll be anxious to make something happen, to make something new happen. They'll be looking to me as the chair to give them the direction, to look at me for leadership. We'll say, well, you have been here, so you kind of know, and help us, you know, how does this all work? And so I think it's just a ripe opportunity to, if there's a different direction that we want to go, boy, it's be perfect, because we're not going to have people like 6 other people there who are going to have their arms folded and say, no, we've never done it that way. You know what I'm talking about. We've never done it that way, so why do we got to change anything? This has always worked, you know. And I'm there to say to them that some things have worked very, very well, granted, and but there are some things that we can make some improvement. And all it takes is this council. I'll tell the new folks, I'll say we work as a body, okay? Nobody here has any more authority than anyone else. We all have one vote. But I say the way that we can make something happen is work as a body. You know, we'll have our give and take too. But eventually, let's work toward achieving this goal. If that's our goal, let's work towards achieving.
So you will allow them to have input, and you guys will do the goal setting and all of that?
Yeah, I think it's important, and you know, that's one thing, Gwen, that we haven't had. I've been on the county council for 7 years, and we never really had a goal session, sole goal-setting session. Now, in Ormond, as the mayor, we did that every January. You know, we had a goal-setting session. And we had our, you know, our short-term goals, like 1-year goals, and then we had maybe 4-year goals.
And everyone had an opportunity to bring something to the table, as opposed to just management saying, this is what I think
this is what we should do. Just listen to me. It's going to be okay.
Okay, let me ask you now about some areas that I know now. I hear a lot, and when I was at early voting, I heard a lot of people talking about this modular housing and the vote that took place on that.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, you know, there are decisions that are made. You haven't been an elected official, and I know that you weigh everything that you get, and you try to decide, okay, what's in the best interest of, in your case, the county, what's in the best interest of the city. What were the things that really stood out in your mind as you guys, or you in particular, looked at the housing that was brought forth? Because there are a lot of people angry about that, but what was it that made it something that you felt that you could favor as opposed to, you know, voting against? Yeah,
I tell you, when this was one of those emotional ones that was talked about earlier. Like
not in my backyard type thing.
We're talking about the plantation oaks of Ormond. That's what it's called. And this is a well-designed property that was permitted, gosh, a number of years ago. And for residential housing, it's planned in 3 phases. the build out of about, I think it's around 1,500 units. But what happened when the housing market crashed, it just never got it never got started, and so it's been vacant all this time. And the developers said, you know, we feel like this housing market may be a while before it comes back. We have this property. We'd like to get something going on it, and we're thinking about doing something that is similar to Crane Lakes in Port Orange, and Plantation Bay, I believe it is, in Flagler County. And I said, well, what are those places? And they said they're upscale modular homes where it's 55 and older community, where the property is maintained essentially, so the homeowner isn't responsible for maintaining their yards and all of that. So everything has that manicured look all the time. Where there are recreation activities and clubhouses, and so I said, well, I need to go take a look at these places. So I did, and I went through, and I was really amazed how nice they were, and because I'm thinking trailer park, and you know, we all have that vision of you know, trailer parks in the 50s, I guess, or 60s. And well, these aren't those kind of places. They're very nice. The people that are living there obviously are more well-to-do, and so I said, well, you know, so what do you want to do? And they said, well, what we're thinking is maybe if we could get modular homes and keep the same size lots that the houses want to be built on. So in other words, we're not going to cram them in. We're going to keep the same permitting. We're not going to change anything. Same roads, same the density. I said, and they said, and we'd like to do it, and of course in phases. And we're just talking about phase one. I think phase one had about 600 lots in it. And I said, well, I'm still not sure. And then I looked at some more places, and I said, well, I'd like to even raise the standards. And I said, because you're in a real nice area there, and I want this to be the best of the best. You know, the cream of the premier. That's a good word. So they said, well, what else would you like to do? And I said, well, I'd like to make it mandatory that you have a double car garage in every home. That they don't have carports, that it's a stick-built looking front, so that it doesn't even look like it's a modular home. And that the minimum square feet, I think, would be 1,500 square feet rather than 1,200 square feet. I mean, I saw somewhere that had 3-car garages. I mean, big places. So, you know, they were agreeable to, to all of those higher standards. And then, so then we went through the whole process with the county council, and there was a lot of questions, but the thing that most people that were fearful of, and there were many people that did not want this, trust me on that, and I think I heard from almost every one of them. And they're great people. Some of them my dear friends, and they were like, Carl, how can you do this to me? And I'm like, oh my God, you're making me feel terrible. And I really don't think it's going to be harmful to anybody. But the fear was that this neighborhood was going to bring down the property values in their neighborhoods that were close by. And I brought up the personal example that when I first moved to Ormond Beach, I lived in Coquina Point, which Coquina Point borders the Falls. And the Falls is a, if you will, built in the 70s, 80s, the mobile home, seniors. And not near the standards that we're talking about here. Now, we're talking about single-wide places, single-wide mobile home with carports, and they look like mobile homes. But I said, our fence line bordered that. There wasn't any buffer zones or anything. It was just right up against it. And I said, my property value went up all the time. It was never affected by that mobile home community, which was right next door. So, and that was right next door. And that was a mobile home community that wasn't anywhere near what this is like. And this place is going to have a golf course and everything.
Right. And they have nice ones in Port Orange and Ormond Beach where the property values are really about the same, or if not higher. So
really high. But here's just the footnote on it. This was passed, I think it was a year ago, maybe it was longer. But you know what? Nothing has started. Even though we went through all that controversy, I've spoken with the developer, and I said, what is going on? And he said, we, even with modular homes, because of, these aren't cheap places. He says it's hard getting the financing right now for this high level that we want to put in. He says it just isn't there yet. So, when it starts, we don't know. It would take, just for phase one, it would take 5 years just to build out phase one if they ever got started. But I think if and when it does start, I think the other thing that I liked about it is because it was going to be restricted in age to 55 and older, that there would be actually less traffic on the loop and on those roads there, because you're not going to have families with teenagers and all the coming and going, kids going to school and back and forth, and all the special events that kids are involved in, sports and activities, coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. When you have one or two 55 and older people which have a lot of recreation activities right on site, there's not going to be as much coming and going. So I thought that was a plus too.
There were a lot of pluses in there. Now, how about the budget?
It's
and taxes, because taxes actually impinge upon budgets. Budgets, usually are set based upon what they think they can get, not only from taxes but other, fines and fees and all of that kind of thing too. But let's talk first about your taxes, because Volusia County, they say, has the second highest tax rate.
I've heard that on television.
I'm sure you guys end up being beat up on that a lot. And then we'll go from that into the budget.
Because they are so related. It's just it's a great soundbite, and not that it isn't true, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And as political advertisements usually go, they don't tell you the whole story. They just tell you the piece that they think
the whole story,
they will get your attention if they say this, which it does get our attention. So here's the deal. Volusia County government's tax rate, the one from the county council that we impose, that we approve, is actually ranked between 42nd and 44th in the state. So we have the 42nd or 45th tax rate in the state, Volusia County government's general operating fund.
That's just the county budget compared to other counties.
Yeah, county to county, apples to apples.
Right.
But when you add all of the taxing districts that we have in Volusia County, and we have more than some other places do. We have our three hospital districts. We have some voter-approved initiatives like ECHO and Forever.
And like Daytona Beach, but Daytona Beach has its new police station.
Yeah, you have different things that voters approve to tax themselves for good reasons.
Right.
Then you have the school board, and then of course whatever city you live in, whatever taxes those are. And so when you add that whole column up, that's what gives us the grand total tax rate. So let's say Daytona Beach's tax rate was 5, and the school boards was 7, and the counties was 4, and the hospital was 3, and Forever's 1, and Echo's 1, and you just, St. John's River Water Management is a half, and this is a half. Well, you add that all together, and then you come up with this number, say it's 23 or something. And that's what puts us at the second highest tax rate. Now, if you look at how much do we pay in Volusia County per capita, which is another way of looking at it, even the total tax rate, per capita, we rank around 22 to 23 highest tax rate. So then you could still ask yourself, well, even so, why is that tax rate that high? Well, the obvious reason is because our assessed values are low. So if the lower your assessed value, well, the higher the tax rate has to be in order to get the same amount of money. So if your house is assessed at $200,000 and it's, and we're doing a 5% tax rate, then you're going to get $10,000 out of a $200,000 house. But if your house is only valued at $100,000, well, then we got to get a 10% tax rate to get that same $10,000 out.
Right.
So the rate's higher, but the amount of money that you're paying is the same. So that's one of the things that hurts us in Volusia County. We have so many foreclosures now, particularly in the southwest portion, Gwen, and the Deltona area. And I saw that recently it went up just a little bit again, but that's going to go up and down for the next years.
Yeah, Daytona has a pretty high rate.
Yeah, yeah. And when the economy went south, not only did we have more foreclosures, which affect our assessed values overall, but that also tells you that some businesses close, and the more businesses that close, that makes the rate higher on residential, because normally commercial really pays the lion's share.
Yeah.
They don't have all those exemptions that we do as residents, and so we'd like to have a balance in the county of, say, 35% commercial at least and 65 residential. But we have, now it's more like 80-20 or 75-25, and that hurts everybody too.
And that percentage has to do with where the bulk of the money's taxes are going.
Oh, of course.
I just want people to think you're talking
And
35% tax rate.
oh yeah, the property. But there's one other point as far as maybe why.
I need to say, you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. This is WLE 1380 AM and your radio dial in Ormond Beach, Florida. And my guest is called Persis, who's a candidate for Volusia County Chair.
Yeah, the other thing that we all love here in Volusia County, but it costs money, is our fantastic coastline. We have 50 miles of coastline. Seminole County doesn't have 50 miles of coastline. We have 50 miles of oceanfront, and we allow cars on the beach, and we have turtles on the beach, which we all know. Well, it costs money to protect those turtles, and it costs a lot of money to keep cars on the beach. We were factoring in the other day, we said, what would happen if we took cars off the beach? And I said, well, you'd probably save about $6 million, $6.5 million, somewhere in there, because of all the personnel that we have on the beach and everything that goes with cars. So that's a factor, and I'm not saying we're going to take cars off the beach, but I'm saying you got to pay for those amenities, and we pay for the beach and that coastline. That's property taxes. We have a beach toll, but Gwen, it costs about $13 million to take care of our beach totally, and
of course
the tolls bring in about maybe $2.
Yeah, and they talk about the beach patrol as a way of, cutting back and saving money.
Well, we have to save lives. That's more important than saving money. And the beach patrol is, they are cross-trained, so they're lifeguards as well as policemen and women. And that's very important because, as we don't like to announce this in our Chamber of Commerce letters, but we also are famous for our runouts in Daytona Beach. And it can be treacherous out
Right,
there,
right.
as you know. And so those beach patrol people are backups all the time. And so they have saved many lives out there. But one thing that we did feel like we have heard from our visitors is that we need to soften the presence of the beach patrol. And I think you'll find when that next tourist season, I'm going to say starting in March, April, you'll see a different look, okay, to it. I can't say what that's going to be yet, but I know that we were talking about it in the summer, about how next year we want to do some things differently. We want to have more of an ambassador force on the beach, maybe some young people with bright T-shirts. You know, that's a welcome and can I help you, or something that tourists will be able to say, you know, here's a person I can go to to get my questions answered. And maybe that person could have a walkie-talkie thing, a radio, where if he needed a police presence, he could call for it. But we don't need them, maybe we don't need all those police vehicles up and down the beach. You know, that's not really a friendly feel. And yet we have to keep our beach safe. We don't want people stealing things from other people on the beach. But I think we could do it. I think we could achieve the same results in a friendlier fashion.
And in terms of economic development, I know you have Team Volusia, and you have your economic development department. And there was talk that that might be going, but you see it just concentrating more on existing businesses and expansions and the like, as opposed to the recruiting, which the new arm of that will be doing?
Yeah, I think that's the smart way to go, Gwen. I really do. We are better able, as the Volusia County Economic Development Department, partnering with our city's economic development departments and helping local businesses, because we live here. We know the people, we know the business owners here. And so we need to reach out to them and really help them. Let the Team Volusia, particularly the private side of that, let them go out there and recruit the businesses in the other states and other places. They can do that better.
And they can wine and dine without being on the front page of the paper.
Yeah, that's right. They don't have sunshine laws, and you know they can do what they want, and we don't even need to know. But
but they need that other arm, which is the government side of it, because that's where a lot of the incentives and the like.
There you go. Because once they get a good prospect, and they go, hey, these people are on the edge right now. What do we need to do to just tilt it our way? Then government can come in and say, tell me what's holding you back.
Right.
Is it the space? Is it the permit? Is it, what is it? Then we can really go to work and watch government work very quickly then.
Now, well, we still haven't gotten really a lot into the budget, but I know that some of these cities have some serious issues with their pensions as far as their unions are concerned, but you guys don't have that issue.
Yeah, no, we're fortunate, and because county employees are considered state employees, so they are covered by the Florida retirement system, and that's an excellent system. Its pension plan is its bond performance and everything is ranked, I think, 4th in the country. So once an employee retires from our system, there is no financial liability to Volusia County government. So that means no financial liability to Volusia County taxpayers. So that person's pension payments for the remainder of that person's life is paid out of the pension fund itself. Unlike many cities that have had private pension plans, their own pension plans, and so now what's happened is many of these people who have retired or will retire, some of them retire after 20 years, some 25. They're very young. Yeah, they're very young, and they're going to live and you know, and
Yeah.
have a great life for a
I
long
never
time.
understood that,
But-
really.
but you
Reducing
have to-
time.
But the city's on the hook
Right.
for those pension
However long
payments
they-
for a long,
Mhm.
long time. And now what's happening is, it's kind of lopsided, that there's more people about to get the pension benefit
Mhm.
than there are new people coming in, you know, paying. That's not a good balance there.
No.
And so that's the fear. It's not happening right this moment,
Mhm.
but some cities with some of their employees are seeing it, that, oh my gosh, 5-7 years from now, we're gonna be in a lot of hurt.
Now, as we continue with some emphasis on the budget, there are some efficiencies generally you can find in government, and you know, you've been a part of the county system for a while, and I'm sure there are some things that you might want to, you know, see happen a little differently. Or...
Yeah, always, you know, it's hard to cut budgets. I don't care whether you're in the school system or whether it's your own personal family,
Mhm.
you know, it's hard to say we can't do that anymore. You know, after you've been doing something that you like,
Right.
and then you say we just can't afford it. Well, that's what we've had to do in county government. I'm sure the cities have too. We've cut over $50 million. That's a big number in the last 4 years. We have reduced our workforce by over 500 people. That's a big number too. Mostly through attrition. Of course, some people move, but we've had a greater use of technology, which has sometimes allowed us to keep that same level of service with having fewer people. So we have taken advantage of that. But at the same time, we have also sort of expanded our role. At the same time, we've reduced the budget, which is quite challenging. We have consolidated the dispatch service now. Remember, we used to have 3 or 4 different dispatch services around the county. Now you call 911, it goes to one central location, and then that call gets transmitted to the closest fire station and evac. Speaking of evac was a private organization up until October of last year. The county took over evac because we were having to subsidize evac so much that we just said, you know, it's costing us so much money to subsidize it. Maybe we could do a better job just running it out ourselves.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, and so now we've been doing it for about a year. We have learned a lot in doing it, and after 6 months of doing it, we offered to pilot a program to 2 cities to see if they would like to experiment and transport their own non-emergency patients to the hospitals. In other words, allow the firefighters to transport the patient to the hospital rather than evac. So Edgewater and Ponce Inlet are the 2 cities who started doing that on August 1st.
Now, did that grow out of any, you know, that's what they say, grow out of lawsuits, et cetera?
I think it was that Edgewater had been clamoring for it. You know, they said, you know,
Most of them are,
yeah,
have been.
they said, they said, you know, we think that we could do this. And we finally said, well, first of all, let us see if we can do it first. So we did it for 6 months to try to understand it. And now we said,
That way
okay,
you were able to compare.
yeah.
Which worked.
And then Ponce Inlet also wanted to do it, and Ponce Inlet is obviously a very small city, and Edgewater is about the size of the land in Smyrna now, and they really wanted to. So what the plan was, Gwen, was to have them do it. I think we were going to let them do it for 6 months or so, and then report back to the county what works, what doesn't, how could it be better, and then if the reaction is positive, then offer to other cities and see if there are other cities that would like to do it. My whole point of saying all that is, again, trying to reduce the government, try to find efficiencies. Cities are wanting to find efficiencies. So I'm thinking, and you're thinking, I know that every time someone calls 911, do we really need to have the fire truck show up with 3 people on it and the evac truck pull up with 3 people on it? That's 2 expensive vehicles, 6 well-trained employees, but do we really need all 6 for the patient that broke his leg or whatever it may be? I'm thinking 3 well-trained employees in a vehicle that is capable of transporting would probably work just fine.
And from what I gather too, they have a tie-in actually with Halifax or whatever hospital, so there's a doctor that's actually advising them along the way.
Absolutely.
You know, sometimes I think people like myself, I thought that too, that they're trained, they know what to do, so they know how to handle them until they get there, but then someone advised me, no, you know, we have a tie-in with a doctor so that they're advising us along the way, so it's not just us on our own, just depending on what basic training we have.
Right. In our medical director course, it's his license that's on the line with all these transports. So it's not just a matter of picking up the person and putting him in the truck and off you go. There are definite protocols that must be followed to the letter, and then the training of the individuals, they have to have a certain level of training. So it may not be just EMT training, but it may be advanced life support too. So that person is talking to the doctor on the way to the hospital, as you said. But I think once we learn all those things and what is it that each city would have to have, I still think it's a way that could perhaps I'm saying, reduce the budget for the city as well as the county. So that's an example of just finding more efficiencies and trying to develop more partnerships with the cities. It'll help them, and it'll help the county, but most importantly, it's going to help the taxpayers because it's going to reduce their taxes, reduce the budgets in the city, and reduce the budget in the county.
Right, and that's kind of a nice segue into partnerships, because there is a need for partnerships in terms of relationships with municipalities. A lot of these county agencies have to work together. You know, sometimes people think that because this agency is associated with the county that automatically, you know, they have all the information, they work so well together that, you know, it's seamless. And that's not always the case either, because there is work that goes on to try to make sure that that kind of connection is there.
Yeah, you are so right, and I think in the private sector, if you talk to successful business people, they will say the top three things that really matter. One of them would be the relationships that they have with their colleagues in the business and with their customers. It's the relationships where you have trust, and that's what one of the things as a new chair that I would certainly be pounding is that we need to have greater feeling of trust, that the cities need to be trusting the county needs to be trusting the cities, greater partnership. I've said on the campaign trail many times that the county needs to assist the cities, help our cities become better. As each city becomes better, then the whole county becomes better.
Absolutely.
So the county is not the enemy. The county is your friend, and Carl Persis as your chair will certainly be your friend. And you know, we say that with a smile, but it is true. And cities need to know that, you know, that the county is there with resources, with people who are in the same areas of government as you have in your cities, and I think what the county staff needs to hear is, you know, some of them have been there a long time, you know, it's hard to change. However, our county manager takes direction, you know, pretty well, and if he hears the consensus from the new county council that says, hey, for some reason, we have a good relationship with City A, but not so much with City B. How come? You know, what's standing in the way of that? And then whatever that is, well, we need to make that go away. Because that's in the past. We're the new county council now, and we want to wipe the slate clean and build good relationships with each of our citizens.
Yes, because your residents, your businesses, they're all your ambassadors as well, good or bad. So it's good to have that together now. I guess one of the last things has to do with rail service, because there are people who say, oh, they put all that money into it, oh, we shouldn't have done it, blah, blah, blah. Now you say you were not really in favor of that initially. Rail service.
No, they had me on the caboose of that train, and I was just barely hanging on. And I said,
in fact, you asked the question which a lot of residents ask, how are we going to pay for it?
How are we going to pay for it?
Yeah.
No, that's all I kept saying. How are we going to pay for it? And why do we got to pay so much for it? And of course I kept thinking, who's going to ride it? And all those things that everyone is asking. And it came before us, I think, 3 or 4 times. And I know the first 3 times I voted against it. And but the last time it came back, I did vote for it. I thought it was definitely the best proposal, and much different than the first one. And I say best in that it was costing us less, a lot less than what it was going to cost us the first time. However, having said all that, it's still going to need a gigantic subsidy from Volusia County. Right now, the Florida Department of Transportation is paying most of it, and that's the deal for the first 7 years. But our contribution to Sunrail, which, by the way, will start in the Berry of that first station, should start in 2014, right, in the beginning, and then a couple of years after that, it'll go down to the land, and that's got a big stretch. That's like 20 miles of track go from there. So our cost is going to go up when the land station comes on board. But very quickly, we're going to go from now paying $1 million, $1.5 million to $3.5 million, and then 4, and then it's going to go up. And so my whole thing is how are we going to pay for it? And right now, it's coming out of our property taxes, but it's not a whole lot. But when it gets a bit higher, it is going to be a whole lot. And when people say, why is your tax rate so high again? One of the things is going to be, well, we added Sunrail, and that's another a service that isn't going to pay for itself.
Yeah.
They don't pay for themselves anywhere.
Yeah, transportation never pays for itself, no matter what you do.
No.
People don't realize
Yeah,
that.
and
It's true.
when we do a road, it's obviously it's subsidized. So and we have GoTran, which we subsidize, but it's a service that our residents need, and like we're paying GoTran now, we probably pitching around $7 million a year. So again, the GoTran is partially paid from gas taxes, and but Sunrail isn't right now going to be paid from gas taxes, because gas taxes aren't even producing enough revenue to pay for the roads, which they were supposed to pay for.
Right.
So we're falling way behind in the transportation issue, the whole thing. And one of the things I want to do, and I've been saying it, is if I am elected in that first quarter, to call for a countywide transportation summit, to pull everyone together, all the cities, the Florida Department of Transportation, TPO, the county, and we need to address all of our road needs, transportation needs, GoTran, Sunrail, get it all on the table. What's the cost? And then collectively decide with the input of the public, okay, here's the big picture, this is what we face, how are we gonna pay for these things? Because our revenue stream right now isn't
Right.
ever gonna get us
And
there.
I don't think people realize that the dollars the state had are not going toward individual, they're now regionalized and might even expand beyond that, so the dollars just aren't there.
No, and we have to compete for those
Mhm.
precious dollars, and you know, Volusia County is not the giant gorilla in the room, so we don't get the lion's share of this money. So, again, it's gonna fall back on the people here, to say, okay, what's another way? What's the fairest way? I guess I always go back to the word fair. You know, what is the fairest way of funding this service? I'm gonna call it a service because transportation is.
Yeah.
What is the fairest way of funding this service? And it can be a combination of things. And I don't have the answers, but I do know that we have the challenge, and we need to get everyone around the same table and say, let's figure this out. And then I think when roll out a few ideas to the public and come on your radio station and others and say, here's what we're thinking about.
Right,
You know,
right.
tell
What
us
do you
what's
think?
right, tell us what's wrong with this, or do you have a better idea?
I said last thing, but I do want you to deal with the perks or the benefits of being on the county council, because some people think, you know, you pay big bucks and, you know, and you get to travel here, there, and all these little commercial things. They say, you know, you're living high and mighty,
I know.
which is not the case. I think you guys do worse than some of even the municipalities. I'm not saying in terms of income, I'm saying in terms of some of the perks that go along with being in office.
Yeah, I know, it's funny, we have a charter that the people approved, and
Yeah, the league was very big in
Yeah.
working on that.
yeah,
Legal
my
voters.
goodness, oh my goodness. And
We were determined that those positions not be money makers if people didn't start getting into them as a job, you know, as opposed to getting into it as a service.
Right, and so it is considered like a part-time thing.
Right.
It consumes my whole life, but it's a part-time job, and so our salary is considered on a formula based on what the state pays. So the state sets the county commission salaries around the state as they set the school board salary. And Volusia County commissioners, council members get about half of what a same person would get in Seminole County, let's say, because of what the charter says. And they also have some restrictions in our charter that say that we can't get a car allowance, we don't get the mileage, that this part-time salary is inclusive of all expenses that we may incur on the job. But that's fine, because you know that going in, and if in fact one day the people vote to change that charter, then that's how we'll change it.
And so far, they haven't been willing to, so
No.
it has come up.
I know.
So Carl, what is, in closing comments, what is it that you would say to our listeners in terms of your run for this office of county council chair, and how can they contact you if they want to help you in this effort?
Well, I appreciate it, Gwen, and this has been great to just elaborate. You know, I'm so used to being on a forum, and you have a minute to answer a question, if you have that. So it's great to have even 2 minutes or 3.
Yeah.
That's like a long time for me now. I would just remind people that the chair of the county is the highest elected local office that we have in Volusia County. County government is big, it is complicated. There's many departments, 50 of them, almost a $600 million budget. The chair position is certainly not a place for a novice. It's not a place for a person who has never served in government to just come in and take the highest office that we have in the most complicated. That isn't even fair to someone to put a person in that a position. So I'm thinking that with my principal experience, with my 7 years experience in city government, and 7 years experience in county government, with my roots of being here for 57 years, that I have the right background, which makes me better prepared and more qualified to lead in this position as Volusia County Chair. And if anyone would like to contact me, I have a website. It's real simple, Persis.com. And on that website, you have all my contact information. Email me. I'm open. I don't have all the answers. I've been in government a long time, but I was a principal for a long time too, and I didn't have all the answers at the end of 28 years. So I am certainly receptive, and I have a reputation for just, trying to be as open-minded as I possibly can, to be fair to everyone, to be respectful. We're not always going to agree on everything, but that doesn't mean that we're always going to disagree. It just may be one issue, one time, and so keep that in mind, and just please feel free to email me, call me, and I promise you I'll get back to you.
And I would think over that 7-year period you've made thousands of decisions, so there's only usually a handful where there's sometimes disagreement along the way. And I appreciate again what you bring to the table, in addition to your experience, the fact that you have dealt with our young people, and I mean that in the sweetest kind of way. And I think there needs to be more of an investment in involvement and overall emphasis on our youth and families. And I know you've had to deal with not only the youth but the families in your principalship, and I'm sure to some extent with the county council as well. But
well, that's what part about local government I said earlier that I like so much, because I kind of feel like I have my principal hat on at times when I'm sitting there, and I look at the person that you're helping. It's not some legislative law that you don't really see the people. You're just hoping some good's going to come from this law.
Right.
When we sit there in county government or city government, the person is at the podium. I mean, the person's in it. So it's a living, breathing, human being who has an issue, and based on what decisions you make, you can really help that person.
Right.
And that person walks out of there with feeling, oh, thank you so much, and you just feel like, I did something good today.
Right.
I helped one of my local residents, and it may sound minor to some folks, because people always concentrate on the budget and the policies, but really what you and I do a lot is we just help individuals.
Right.
Individuals.
Absolutely.
And that, when I drive home from a county council meeting, and I know I help this person or that person, I have a smile on my face. It was a good day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you think along the way that that makes an even better day. But sometimes I remember being a counselor, and I used to tell those that I supervise and train, I say, sometimes you get the thank yous are few and far between, so you got to make one that you get last a long time. So, Carl, we say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
and we thank you for coming on the show. We thank all of our listeners for listening, and we want to do a shout out to all of our veterans as well, and I know you went on that trip there where, as you stated, you paid to go the $500 thing for you and your wife out of your personal, right, and you shared a comment with me earlier about one of the persons who came back and saw the article in the paper and asked if they could write something, and then another person who said to you, that same person maybe said, I didn't even know you were an elected official. Why didn't you tell us? Because you didn't campaign while you were there. You actually, you guys actually sponsored, what were you, what do you call it?
Guardians.
Guardians.
Yeah. No, I wasn't there. I didn't have any name tag on that. It wasn't until 2 months after that, one of the World War II veterans, we were guardians for. And he said, why didn't you tell me you were running for office? And I said, it isn't about me. This is all about you. And what difference does it make? So
Absolutely.
I said, it's all about you.
Absolutely.
You're the heroes.
Yes. And when it comes down to it, isn't that the case? I mean, that it's all about whoever that is, as you've said, that's before you, whoever that is that is just in need of help in providing them with that assistance. So, Hey guys, we've come to the end of our show. We want to thank everyone for listening. We want to remind you to tune in every Thursday starting at 6:15 or whenever we boot the big guy out of the chair. And give us a listen. So you know that we discuss issues and we want to inform and empower you, our listeners, because information, as I always say, leads to knowledge, and knowledge is power. Again, be sure to go to the website www.gwen-truth.com and also YouTube, Truth Radio Show, and you can see, as well as hear, the guests that we have on. And again, until next time, be informed, be empowered. Please, please, please get that information so you can be empowered and stand tall for that which is right and truthful. Again, you can listen to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, my guest, called Persis, again, candidate for County Council Chair. And you be blessed and have a great week.
Job, right? You have such a nice voice. Smooth.
I end up competing with my husband on this because he swears.